Hello and welcome to my first portfolio update of the new tax year, and what a start the new tax year has been. As Trump says, the markets have been a bit yippy. It's been a bit all over the place, up and down, new news stories every day. But let's jump into these yippy markets and have a look at what's been going on.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
So it all started on the 2nd of April when we had Liberation Day, when Trump came out with his board and showed us those universal tariffs of 10% across all countries, along with higher reciprocal tariffs, or what he called reciprocal tariffs, for countries that he stated had unfair practices with the US or where there was a significant trade deficit. On the 5th of April, the 10% baseline tariff on all imports took effect, but then shortly after, on the 9th of April, Trump announced a 90-day pause. This was a 90-day pause on all elevated tariffs. So the 10% baseline is still there. It just got rid of those higher reciprocal tariffs. Apart from China, China's higher rates were still going to take effect. Therefore, on the 10th of April, China responded with a 125% tariff on US imports. So basically tit for tat and a bit of a trade war going on between the US and China. And then getting up to date, the latest news has been on the 12th of April, Trump has announced some exemptions. So smartphones, some semiconductor components and laptops, that sort of thing, are going to be exempt from these higher tariffs. So we're kind of seeing the unwinding of these tariffs, and it's been up and down. No wonder the market's been all over the place, because how are any company going to plan what to do when the tariffs just keep on changing? And investors obviously invest, the stocks are priced based on the future earnings, future cash flows of companies. How are you meant to have any idea what they could possibly be when tariffs are constantly changing? And just to see how it has impacted the markets, looking at a year-to-date chart of the S&P 500, we can see after a bit of a recovery, it is now only down minus 8.61% year-to-date. I think at its worst on the so-called Black Monday, it did pass the crash barrier of minus 20%, but that was very brief. And I think by the afternoon, it had already recovered a little bit. So it only actually entered crash territory, minus 20% from all-time highs, very briefly, I think. So whilst it has been a significant dip correction, it was very briefly in that crash territory. And of course, I'm recording this at the weekend, and the weekend news has been that smartphones, semiconductor components will be exempt from the tariff. So in that case, we're probably going to see a bit of a increase on Monday when the markets are open. Obviously, the futures market on Sunday at 11 p.m. UK time, we'll also be able to see when that opens what sort of thing is happening in the markets. But I think some platforms like IG, you can see weekend trading prices. And I think on weekend trading, the Tech 100, so the NASDAQ 100, is up about 3.5%. So it gives you some sort of idea what we could possibly see on Monday. Of course, things can change overnight. I have no idea what will happen on Monday, but I guess we're going to see the NASDAQ up about 3.5%, S&P maybe 2.5 to 3, and so on. So should see that little bit of a rebound. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I personally don't care, because I'm a long-term investor. These ups and downs are just part and parcel. It's fun to see from the sidelines whilst other people panic. As someone who's not going to sell regardless of what happens, and I'm just going to keep on topping up, it's kind of interesting to see. And if anything, if I'm being selfish, I kind of wanted depressed prices for longer, because it means my top-ups, I get more money from my top-ups. If we just get a quick rebound and valuations end up to where they were before, where valuations were very hefty, then the expected returns are lower. So whilst it is a bit of a generalization, when valuations are high, the future expected returns are a bit lower. But that's just theory. As I say, I'm not changing my investing strategy regardless of what happens. So before we jump into my trading 2-on-2 portfolio, because that's where I've actually deposited so far this tax year, I thought I'd show my aggregated portfolio performance on Getquin. This is where I track all my various ISAs, SIPs, and a tiny bit of Bitcoin all in one place. And we can see the current value is 52,515. On the year-to-date chart, you can see my portfolio is down by 10%, £5,864. So although we have seen a little bit of a rebound upwards, we're still massively down year-to-date. Well, massively, 10%, it depends on perspective, but we are down significantly year-to-date. And another reason why UK investors have been hit harder than, say, US investors is because we've also been seeing the pound strengthening against the dollar. And if you're investing in US assets, say an S&P 500 ETF, but your ETF is traded in GBP, then the GBP to USD exchange rate also impacts your performance. It's a good thing to keep in mind that. So whenever you look at the S&P 500 index performance, it's not necessarily too useful to give you an indicator of your portfolio performance, because you've got that currency fluctuations having an impact as well. Before we jump into trading 2-on-2, I just want to quickly show the performance on Getquin Premium here, because you can see the month-to-month performance for 2025 so far. We can see January, so the year started off pretty good. We had a really green January, but February, March, and April, with all the uncertainty and the tariff news, they have been 3 red months in a row. And my performance breakdown for 2025 so far is minus 10% price gain, so minus 5,601, £236 in dividends, and £516 in realised gains. That gives me a time-weighted rate of return for 2025 so far of 8.7%. If you do want to try out Getquin to track all your portfolios in one place, I do leave a link in the description. My fully honest take with Getquin is that for ETFs and individual stocks, it's perfect. Does everything I want it to do. The dividend forecasting and the performance is really great. But my one criticism for me personally is it doesn't work perfectly with investment trusts. So for example, JP Morgan Global Growth and Income, the price is often a few days behind. But if you don't have any investment trusts and you just have individual stocks and ETFs, I think it should work perfectly for you. Okay, so here we are on my stock size on Trading 212 now. You can see on the maximum view, my rate of return is minus 2.2%, or total return, just value, nominal terms, £273.90. And if we just go back to January, February time, you can see end of January, my rate of return was 17.8% plus 2,000 total return. So things have swung from being over £2,000 up to now minus £200. And it was a lot worse than this. If we just go to that big dip, we can see it was minus 758. I think it was actually lower than that at one point. I just don't think I can actually get to that very bottom point. No, it won't let me show, but very briefly on that Monday, I definitely was temporarily below minus £1,000. The next thing is to scroll down. If we just go to my ISA allowance at the bottom, you can see I've utilised £3,000 of my ISA allowance. So we've got that refreshed £20,000 ISA allowance this tax year. I've been able to put a bit of a lump in at the start of the tax year, but then for the rest of the year, it's going to be regular consistent payments of between £500 to £1,000 per month, depending on what I can afford. But this big lump at the start, you could say it's kind of lucky timing in the sense that I got to invest during that dip, but I'm always hesitant to say that because buying the dip, I'm not too much of a fan of the term buying the dip because buying the dip implies that you've got the dip. The dip can keep on dipping, so just be careful of that. If you overinvest, like pull out your emergency fund or extra cash and you buy the dip and then it dips more, then you're going to be getting FOMO and thinking you could have timed it perfectly. So just remember that buying the dip is a form of market timing. So whilst there can be some benefits of buying the dip, just going with that mindset that it is a form of market timing and you may not get it correct. So looking at the positions now, you can still see my large position is JP Morgan Global Growth and Income. I have topped it up slightly. So if we just click onto it, we can go in the three dots in the top right, history, and here we can see what I've been doing. So the latest transactions are I bought 186.006 shares on the 7th of April, £888 worth. On the 9th of April, I received a really nice dividend of £114.80. And I also bought 4 shares worth £19.48. So I have topped up slightly during that dip and also received that really nice dividend. But I'm not looking to build this position too much. As I was mentioning in my last video, I'm looking to counteract the fact that I've got a large weighting to this active fund with building up a passive fund alongside it, as you'll see shortly. So over the past month, we can really see JP Morgan, like any global fund really, has been hit hard. Especially on that Monday, the 7th of April, it went down to 460p, I think temporarily even lower than that, but obviously the chart doesn't show it when it's daily. And it has rebounded a little bit, and we should see a further bit of a rebound on Monday. I now own 2,204 shares, with an unrealized return of minus £1,060, 8.6% down. Okay, next up, we have another position that isn't new, MSCI USA Small Cap Value Weighted ETF. I haven't topped up this ETF. I own 40 shares. The return is minus £318, minus 15%. And small caps, unsurprisingly, have been hit very hard. On the 1 month chart, it's down by 11%. And it hasn't really recovered that much yet. Small caps are more badly affected by economic news, prospects of a recession, anything to do with interest rates, and especially tariffs. So that's why they've not recovered as much so far. Now, before we move on to the next position, if you are new to Trading 212 and opened your account within the last 10 days, you can get a free fractional share worth up to £100 by using my promo code TOM in the menu page of the app. For full transparency, that is an affiliate link, affiliate code. So if you do use it, I do get something too. And if you are completely new to Trading 212 and are interested, you can scan the QR code on screen or find the link in the description below. Thank you to everyone who supported my content by using that link or code. Next up, we have a new position in the portfolio. So as I mentioned, I'm having a passive global fund, starting to build that up to counteract the significant weighting to an active investment trust. Although I do hold passive funds on Invest Engine as well. So I've bought 7 shares of this. So far, the return is positive, 3.9%, because I did buy on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was, when it was down. And my average price is £161.47. So for those who don't know, SPDR MSCI All Country World Index ETF is one of the cheapest global funds on the market at the moment. It has a total expense ratio of 0.12%. But to be clear, from my perspective, I'm not too fussed with any global fund. The differences between them are minuscule. So I think people can get a bit too caught up in picking the exact global fund. If you go with one that's global market cap weighted, whether that be Vanguard's one, Invesco's one, State Street's one, Amundi's new one, iShares one, they're all very, very similar. And the small difference in fees may not actually lead to anything, because if they have small differences in tracking error, for example, one could be cheaper, but if it has a worse tracking error, it could actually work out to be worse than the one with the higher fee. So there's many things to consider. And especially with new ETFs, we'll get onto that shortly, you also need to consider liquidity, trading volume, and bid offer spread as a consequence of that liquidity and trading volume. And that is very relevant with this next ETF here, Wisdom Tree Global Quality Growth. So I've built up this position as well, because this is a new ETF that I was excited about. It's Global Quality Growth. So this ETF gives exposure to stocks in developed markets countries that meet quality and growth characteristics. And I personally did my research, and I really do like the look of it. But of course, this isn't investment advice. I'm just showing what I do with my own portfolio. Please do not copy anything you see in my videos before doing your own research. It's purely for entertainment purposes and sharing my journey. So the reason why liquidity, fund size, trading volume is relevant for this is because this is a brand new fund. The fund size is minuscule. The trading volume is absolutely tiny. Like, I can go on the London Stock Exchange website and see my trades very easily whenever I buy some shares of this ETF. That's how infrequent the trades of this ETF are. And if we go on the one-day view, you can see the price is only updating twice per day. That's how illiquid this fund is. Once in the morning and then once at market close. So throughout the day, you know how other ETFs and individual stocks, you'll see the price fluctuating almost every couple minutes, or maybe more frequent than that. That is not the case with illiquid ETFs like this one. So it is definitely something to be aware of when looking at newer products, newer ETFs. Be careful with that trading volume, liquidity, bid offer spread. In this case, the spread hasn't been too bad, but if I had a lot to invest, like hundreds of thousands, I certainly wouldn't want to put it into such an illiquid ETF at the moment. Anyway, I own 70 shares now. It's currently up by 4.39%. And I don't know if I'm going to build it up more on Trading 212 or build it up in my other ISA. It's not on the other platform I use yet, but I wanted to dip my toe in on here because it is on Trading 212 and just see how it performs. And going back to that, you will see I now have 3 global funds: JP Morgan Global Growth and Income, SPDR MSCI All Country World Index, and Wisdom Tree Global Quality Growth. So you might be thinking, that's a lot of overlap there. You don't need all that. And don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware, but I'm not investing into all of them for diversification reasons. I'm investing into the 3 of them because I like seeing how these different types of funds perform. We've got an actively managed investment trust, we've got a passive global market cap weighted fund, and then we've got a global fund with quality and growth filters. The vast majority of people probably have no interest in having several overlapping funds. What I personally say is overlap is not a problem as long as you understand it is there and what impact it has on your portfolio overall. If you have loads of funds and you don't know what they do and there's loads of overlap and you don't even know what your overall portfolio breakdown is, that's when it becomes a problem. And then the last position here is Bloomsbury Publishing, the only individual stock. This has been hit hard like most stocks. It's only minus 3% over the past month, but it has bounced back a little bit, currently trading at 553p. I have topped this up a tiny amount, I believe. So if we go into the history, we can see that I have received no dividends. I've bought 2 shares on the 9th of April, so a very tiny top up. I think it's just because I had a bit of spare change and it wasn't enough for a whole share of other things, so I just topped it up on Bloomsbury. So that's the Trading 212 portfolio. As you can see, I've just been buying as normal, not changing my strategy. Yes, I've got some new positions, but these new positions were planned anyway. I'm just going to keep on contributing. I'm not interested in timing the market. I will do a more in-depth video later on about my views on timing the market, how to invest during crashes, how to react in times like this. There's some other great videos already out there, but I want to put my take out there as well because these sort of crashes don't happen too often. We see dips and corrections quite frequently, but dips this significant are less frequent. And for new investors, it can be quite scary. So I do think it is important to put out that perspective as well about how this is commonplace in the stock market. The last thing I wanted to mention is I have also deposited £2,000 onto the Lightyear platform this tax year. Currently just sat in a money market fund via Lightyear Vaults. I'm just trying out Lightyear to see what I think of it. Because as a content creator, I do think it is important to try out these new platforms, these new offerings, and see what they're like. Because I'm not loyal to any particular brand. If a new platform comes along and does some things better or some things worse, I'll tell you guys about it. And I think I'll do a full Lightyear review over the next month or so to share my thoughts on it. That's it for this update. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.